Welcome to this session. My name is Kateryna. I'm a developer relations engineer working at Google. And before Google, I worked at Lyft. And also was working on authentication onboarding. And at Google, I also help developers to use Google APIs and help with app startup and authentication identities and a lot of other features. So today, I'm going to talk about Passkeys and digital identities best practices. You probably build a bunch of apps or working on different features for users that people want to see and use every day in their life. But for the best user experience, you probably also work on account creation, authentication, and user onboarding or accessing your services is very important, and it should be super simple and super seamless. So there's no friction and they can access your services. But it sometimes could be challenging, right? When we create authentication flow, we require sometimes passwords, but they're not very secure and they can be phished or leaked or server breached. Users often forget their passwords as well or reuse them across sites and applications. Because of those security challenges, many services require second-factor authentication. And it further increases friction for a lot of users and along the authentication journey. In addition, sign-in methods might be different, and it could be a password, it could be sign-in with Google, or it could be email link, could be some kind of one-time passcode, or SMS OTP. So users carry this burden to remember the authentication method, and why do they need to remember it, right? It should be super simple and automatic. Authentication also could be complicated for developers. Developers might be thinking what API to use. In the past, we provided different APIs for example, for remembering password or for signing with Google. And consolidating all of these things into one elegant code could be hard and also maybe hard to maintain going forward. So a lot of problems with this. Let's look at some data as well. There's a quiz about what % of data breaches are linked to passwords, and there are a few options. Could you guess which is the right one? Any ideas? 90? Okay. So in the data breach investigation report by Verizon, they stated that social engineering attacks are very often and very effective and extremely profitable for cyber criminals. And 74% of all breaches include the human element, with people being involved either via error, privilege misuse, use of stolen credentials, or social engineering. And 80% of breaches are linked to passwords. So 80 is the right answer. Okay, another quiz. What % of users in the US have abandoned purchases due to difficulty of managing passwords? 58? Okay. That's the right number. Exactly. So according to a FIDA Alliance survey, 58% of consumers in the US have abandoned purchases due to difficulty of managing passwords. Creating a secure, frictionless sign-in experience will benefit both your customers and your businesses. So they get a smoother login experience, and you get happy customers, less likely to abandon their purchases. So how to reduce your reliance on passwords? And our recommendation would be to use Passkeys and sign in with Google. To reduce reliance on passwords, you can replace them with Passkeys, and it will be the lowest friction sign-up and sign-in experience, and also if you use sign-in with Google as well. But Passkeys may not solve for all use cases, so that's why we recommend to implement sign-in with Google in addition to Passkeys. So all of them together will definitely simplify user onboarding, account creation, and authentication going forward. And let's look into every authentication methods a little bit more deeper, like how exactly they work and what's the difference, why do you need actually both. So I'll walk you very quickly through passkeys first. Passkeys are considered more secure than passwords because they are based on public key cryptography. And they reduce the risk of phishing attacks and make it more difficult for accounts to be compromised or breached. When you set a passkey, a public and private key pair is created. The public key is sent to the app server, while the user device keeps the private key. When the user wants to sign in, a digital signature of the private key is verified against the public key on the server to prove user's identity. When the user wants to sign in again, this signature will be verified, and the authentication itself, it's basically very simple. With one step, user just needs to unlock the screen, and they are signed in. And passkeys are also built on WebAuthn standard and supported by all major phone platforms and operating systems. Passkeys are also synced between user devices via credential providers, such as Google Password Manager or any other credential provider. So even if users lose their device, they will not lose access to their credentials. And Google, you probably heard that Google integrated passkeys last year into all Google accounts. But to prove that it's working, Google also did some research. And based on this research, 68% of users feel passkeys are easier to use than traditional methods such as passwords. And 62% feel passkeys are more secure than passwords. Now let's discuss sign-in with Google. So for friction-free account sign-up for all platforms, we also recommend integrating sign-in with Google. Sign-in with Google works across platforms on Android, iOS, and web, so you can be sure that users can access your app regardless of device or surface. And you can meet them where they are, actually. Sign-in with Google also extends the world-class security on your user's Google account. Users get safe, one-tap access to services online using their Google account. Additionally, developers get trusted account attributes from Google, such as verified email address, to streamline the account creation and authentication later. This helped to prevent the friction and also drop-off from users. And also, it's all done through clear user consent, upholding strong principles to respect user privacy. Now let's talk about engineering part from it, like how actually implement it and what developers need to do. So our recommendation would be to use Credential Manager API to simplify user experience and also your code base. The Credential Manager API provides a simple user experience by consolidating passkeys, sign-in with Google, and passwords into one single interface. To reduce complexity, the system automatically shows the most secure and relevant login option, and users always have a choice to select the sign-in method. So the first screen that you see, this is the screen that will be presented to a user, but once they tap sign-in options, they can see other sign-in options if they have for this specific application. So by default, let's say a user has passkey and password for your app, the passkey would be pre-selected because it's considered more secure. Using multiple APIs to build different sign-in methods can be a real challenge. To simplify integration and ongoing maintenance, Credential Manager supports all of this authentication into one single Jetpack library. So basically, you just need to add one dependency on the Jetpack library, and you have all of this authentication mechanism already provided. Credential Manager is generally supported on Android 4.4 and higher, and passkeys are supported on Android 9 and higher. One of the primary advantages of Credential Manager is support for passkeys authentication. With passkeys, users can sign in into apps and websites by using the device screen lock. This is what I mentioned before. The device screen lock can be a fingerprint, a facial recognition, a PIN number, or pattern. It's something that users know and use very repeatedly on their device. This provides a faster and smoother, convenient sign-in experience, freeing users from having to remember usernames or passwords for each app. And let's look at some feedback from apps who integrated Credential Manager and passkeys last year. X is one of the world's largest social media company. X engineers recently integrated Credential Manager API. And in the past, they were using Smart Log for passwords and one-tap APIs for sign-in with Google. By the way, I'm wondering, is anybody here using Smart Log for passwords or one-tap sign-in? Yep, OK. I'm actually want to share with you that those APIs already deprecated towards Credential Manager API. Because in the past, it was really hard for developers, again, to manage multiple libraries. And that's why we came up with a library that consolidates all of these methods into one place. But also, we care about user experience. And by default, Credential Manager, as I shared earlier, pre-selects the most safe way for a user. And it's much simpler, so users don't need to remember what authentication mechanisms they used before. So X engineers shared integrating Passkeys with Google's new Credential Manager library was remarkably straightforward. The library allowed us to unify Smart Log, sign in with Google, and Passkeys under one cohesive umbrella, significantly reducing the amount of code required. The unified process made migration and maintenance effortless, empowering us to enhance security and user experience with ease. So sharing this feedback, maybe it will inspire you as well. And by using Credential Manager, hoping that you don't need to maintain a lot of code. Amazon also integrated Passkeys last year and Credential Manager API into the shopping app and corresponding website. Amazon shared that with Passkeys, our customers are finding it easier to sign in compared to passwords and codes. OK, and WhatsApp, I guess everybody knows WhatsApp, is a very popular messenger app with billions of users around the world. They've been using SMS OTP for authentication before, and they started thinking how to reduce cost and how to make sure that users have even more secure way of authentication. Because, as you probably know, SMS OTP could be easily phished as well, and users could be tricked to share the code with somebody else. So they integrated Passkeys, and they shared the following feedback. Passkeys verification will make logging back into WhatsApp easier and more secure. We're excited to launch this on WhatsApp and give users an added layer of security. So even big companies such as WhatsApp migrating to Passkeys and Credential Manager API. I'm not sure if you heard about this Credential Manager provider. It's a very popular Credential Manager provider. They integrated also Passkeys last year. And they shared that 70%, they saw 70% increase in conversion rates with Passkeys comparing to passwords. And Credential Manager API also supports multiple credentials providers. So if a user wants to use Google Password Manager or Dashlane or 1Password, like any third-party credential provider would be available to users. And third-party credential providers are available starting from Android 14. Let's look at another example. Kayak, the world's leading travel search engine, helps users to find the best deals on flights, hotels, and rental cars. Last year, Kayak integrated Passkey into its Android app and other mobile and web apps. As a result, Kayak reduced the average time it takes users to sign in by 50%, and also saw a decrease in support tickets. In addition to Passkeys, Kayak offers sign-in with Google as a cross-platform solution for account creation and authentication. And the majority of Kayak users prefer to use sign-in with Google due to its seamless and secure user flow. Now, we covered Credential Manager existing capabilities, but now let's look at what's coming this year. So to simplify the Passkeys user experience even further, we enable a single-tap Passkey sign-in by merging the account selector and the biometric prompt. So previously, we had two steps to authenticate. Basically, you choose your account and then unlock your phone and you authenticate, which was actually pretty simple. But we simplified it even further just in one screen. And this improvement will be automatically supported in new versions of Credential Manager on Android 15 and higher, requiring no additional work. So it's going to be free for developers. Don't need to do anything. But like if you look at the previous screen, it's a bottom sheet, right? So users may accidentally dismiss it. So what's going to happen next? What would be the UX for the user, and what flow you should provide? You can also leverage the autofill because a credential manager going to be integrated in autofill suggestions. And to make sure that users will be able to sign in with Passkeys, sign in with Google or passwords, credential manager will be shown in autofill surfaces. So users will see they saved credentials in keyboard suggestions or when clicking on relevant input fields during sign-in. So you can even show, if you have like a password field or username field, you can show sign in with Google or passkey option there in addition to passwords, for example. And this feature also will be available in Android 15. I'm wondering if anybody here using autofill for, okay, great. I see some hands. So if you're interested in this specific feature, feel free to share like maybe your contacts, and we can help you also maybe to integrate this feature as well, because this is a new feature and we want to hear your feedback. So now let's talk about authentication on a new device. We mentioned before that sign-in with Google like supported through Credential Manager, passwords and passkeys also supported, but what's the experience on the new device? For the new device, we're introducing a new feature called Restore Credentials that allows your users automatically restore their signed-in state on a new device. And this feature also will be available in the Credential Manager later. So how does it work? Let's say users on an existing device, they log into your app. And the app saves the restore key by using Credential Manager API. So no user interaction required at this point. Restore key is encrypted and stored locally on a device. And when user enables cloud backup, then the encrypted restore key will be stored in the cloud. And let's say they purchase a new device and goes through the backup and restore flow, the encrypted key will be available during this process, and apps can use it to authenticate users automatically. So at this step, there's no user interaction required as well. App is automatically assigns the user back on a new device. And imagine how great it would be if you just buy a new app and all your apps going to work in the same way and they authenticate it automatically. You don't need to do anything else. And it's also a very secure way, and it leverages the backup and restore flow. We're also happy to announce that Credential Manager is coming to Wear OS. I'm wondering if any of you have wearable apps or like for Wear OS. Anybody working on this? Or maybe your company has Wear? No, okay. So maybe in the future you would have. With this integration, you can sign in using passkeys, passwords, and sign in with Google right from your watch. And you can start working on this feature on Wear OS 5 quarterly platform release. And it also will include support for third-party credential providers such as Dashlane. In addition to passkeys, sign in with Google, and passwords, Credential Manager also expanded to support digital identities. So what is digital identities? It's basically everything that you have in your wallet. Any kind of physical identity could be digitalized, such as driver license, passport, a membership card. And these IDs could be stored in digital wallets on your device. And Credential Manager provides developers with an API that allows your users to share their IDs from those digital wallets with the apps that need them. So over the next years, we are going to see tons of new ways to use this technology, including things like account verification or account recovery. So if you need to validate your users and use real identity documents, this would be a great feature to have. Okay, let's look at some identity best practices. So the first best practice is to use Credential Manager API for all sign-in methods. If you use this API, it will definitely going to simplify user experience, and it supports multiple authentication methods such as passkeys, passwords, and sign-in with Google. Prompt existing users to create passkeys after they sign in, because At this point, you already know that user authenticated successfully. And to simplify the experience going forward, ask them to create passkeys for even more faster and easier sign-in next time. Another best practice is to provide context or guidance education about Passkey. Passkey is a new concept, right? And not a lot of users understand it. So if you add in Passkeys, add some explanation. What is this? Why it's more secure? How does it work? And provide corresponding messaging or icons around it. We have some examples on documentation. And we have a good user guide how to integrate Passkeys available on Android developers documentation. So highly recommend to check it out and use. And also have a clear and simple settings page displaying relevant Passkeys information. So if a user created Passkey, they know where it was created, how it's saved, and they can easily delete it if they want, actually. Just to summarize, 4 best practices: use Credential Manager to handle all sign-in methods. Prompt existing users to create passkeys after they sign in with passwords. Or maybe if you have more complicated two-factor authentication, also highly recommend to maybe ask them to create passkeys so they don't have to go through multiple steps. Provide in-context guidance and education around passkeys because it's a new concept and people need to understand how it works. And have a clear and simple settings page displaying the relevant information for the user. And just to wrap up, passkeys are supported via Credential Manager API on Android. It provides a simple interface for users. And basically, all credentials are available within a single user interface. And this API for developers. Like one Jetpack library, don't need to do or import any other dependencies or libraries. And impact is already being shown by multiple applications, like Amazon, WhatsApp, Dashlane, Kayak, X. They shared very good feedback about using passkeys. And a lot of them also saw increase in conversion rates and faster sign-in flows. So highly recommend, because these apps, they are very big apps with millions or billions of users. And this is just a start. We are working on new features in Credential Manager API. As I shared earlier, this feature is going to be available in Android 15 or later this year. And we will bring even more amazing features over the next years. So highly recommend to migrate if you're using Smart Log or one-tap sign-in or Google Identity Services. Like maybe you've been using sign-in with Google in the past via other APIs. We are deprecating all of those towards Credential Manager because we believe that this is the best from the user perspective and also from the developer perspective because you don't need to maintain multiple libraries. And there's some documentation available. Please take a screenshot or just follow the link. We have very good guidance how to implement passkeys, how to integrate sign-in with Google by using Credential Manager API. And also, we have migration guides. So if you've been using some other library in the past, you can find migration guides on our developers documentation as well. And there's also a code lab if you want to do it very quickly and prototype something very fast. There's a code lab available. Right now, the code lab has and uses Android Views implementation, but we also have a branch that I believe the name is Passkeys UX. It has Compose implementation. So it depends on how your app is implemented. You can use either Views or Compose implementation from the sample app. And also check out the video we just released on Google I/O. There's a session about Passkeys and identity solutions. You may find even more information there and also different resources and links. So hoping you will enjoy it, and thank you. I'm happy to answer all of your questions.